for the nice introduction, Kat, and welcome everybody. I began working in the field of inclusive education in 1985, and I think it was that very year that I first heard a presentation by a brilliant Canadian author and advocate named Judith Snow. I don't know if any of you have ever had the privilege of seeing Judith or reading any of her work, but she's one of the wisest and smartest people I've ever heard speak about the issue of disability. So Judith's presentation was really centered on her own personal story of how a group of her friends came together and essentially saved her life through a series of situations. Judith was a person with pretty significant physical disabilities. She used a wheelchair, and just shortly before I heard her, she had just moved from a nursing home out into an apartment in the community. And it was Judith who actually first coined a phrase that some of you may be familiar with called circle of friends. And Judith, again, said that it was this group of people who came together in a very intentional way and helped really challenge the whole Canadian system of supports for adults with disabilities to enable Judith to move out of the nursing home and into the community. And at the end of Judith's presentation, she said something that has just stuck with me for all these years, almost 30 years. And she said, the only disability is having no relationships. So those of you who have been part of this webinar series will remember a slide that I showed probably back in webinar 1, where I sort of depicted the interrelationships between presuming a student's competence, supporting their membership and relationships, assuring that they have a means for full participation, all as conditions for their learning and participating fully in inclusive education. And I think it was really that first time that I heard Judith that made me put that issue of relationships as really one of the necessary conditions or foundations, not only for students' academic success, but for their emotional well-being, and certainly a variable, a factor that will be so important to their quality of life, not only when they're in school, but outside of school. So let me share with you not only some of the wisdom that I've learned from Judith over the years, but really kind of some of the lessons I've learned from working with lots of parents who have been at the forefront of facilitating their children's social relationships. And also what I've learned from both young people and adults with disabilities themselves.